Meghan Markle has never been a member. I don't know if she's become a member now, but she had been working for Soho House since at least 2005.
Meghan Markle calls it destiny. Everyone else calls it networking with a royal twist, because fairy tales usually don't begin with a Soho.
She didn't buy a membership. She was a working girl for Soho House.
House membership card. Prince Harry thought he knew every chapter of Meghan's story until he saw one photograph. The sunlight.
When she started on Suits and she befriended Jessica Mulroney, her status changed.
A faded yacht image buried deep online.
She was one of my Deal or No Deal girls that were, she was a caddy for all of my celebrities.
Laughter. The champagne. And in the corner, something small, almost invisible. Navy blue canvas bag, stamped with the emblem of Soho.
But in the end, nothing beats the truth, the real fact.
And house. It meant nothing to most people, but to Harry, it was a name that carried whispers, history, and warning. Because Soho House wasn't just another private club. It was a...
Prince Andrew, have you noticed how he completely avoids looking at Meghan Markle when she's around him or when she was around him?
Gateway. One that connected actresses to billionaires, models to politicians, and rising stars to royalty. And suddenly, the timeline of Meghan's story didn't add up. The media told...
So when Meghan came along into the scene, I just thought, this is fascinating. How is this going to play out?
Us it was a fairy tale. An actress meets a prince by chance. Love conquers the odds. Tradition bends to modernity. But what if that's not how it happened? What if the meeting wasn't chance at all, but design? Because that single photo, the bag, the yacht, the friends who never appeared in interviews, opened a door to something Harry was never meant to find. A network of introductions, a map of names, a pattern too precise to ignore. From Istanbul to London to Toronto, every city.
So Jessica Mulroney introduced her to Marcus Anderson in Toronto.
Revealed another connection. Every connection led back to the same inner circle and the same man pulling the string, Marcus Anderson. Now,
and I don't think he heard Meghan's voice. I think he heard his mother's voice.
Harry isn't just questioning his marriage. He's questioning the origin story itself. Because when you realize your fairy tale might have been a strategy, love stops feeling like destiny and starts feeling like a setup. It began quietly, a private search, late at night, inside the walls of Frogmore Cottage. Harry wasn't looking for...
This gentleman right here, that's Nick Jones, the original founder of Soho House. Guess where he's going there? He's arriving at Meghan Markle and Harry's wedding as guest of honor. Oh yeah, Soho was present.
Trouble. He was looking for truth. Dozens of old photos spread across his desk. Tabloids, archived Instagram shots, fragments from Meghan's years before the palace. But what caught his attention wasn't the smiles or the locations. It was the pattern. In nearly every photo, one logo kept reappearing. A champagne glass etched with the same crest. A velvet invitation embossed with the same initial, Soho House International. To the public, it was an exclusive club where celebrities escaped cameras and executives, closed quiet deals. But inside London's social circles, its reputation ran deeper. It was where introductions were arranged, careers curated, reputations constructed. And at the center of it all was a man Harry had met only brief, Marcus Anderson. Anderson wasn't a stranger to Meghan. He'd been in her orbit for years, her confidant, travel companion, and the man insiders quietly called her social strategist.
Jeffrey Epstein was also Harvey Weinstein, very prominent. There were members. Meghan Markle was just one of the working girls for Soho House. Call girl, working girl, escort, whatever you want to call it. That's what she was.
According to archived society blogs and event registries, Marcus was the invisible thread connecting Meghan to power players across Europe and North America. Each new discovery made Harry's pulse quicken. The yacht wasn't random. The parties weren't spontaneous. The friendships weren't accidental. They were curated, perfectly aligned to lead her into his world. And as the clock ticked past midnight, Harry realized something far more unsettling. The same names funding his charities were the same faces smiling beside Meghan in those forgotten photos. That wasn't
Harry, being a simple soul, has easily changed to suit Meghan's agenda.
coincidence. That was architecture, and it was about to expose the story no palace press release ever mentioned. For years, the world believed it was a story too perfect to question. A prince weary of protocol, an actress searching for meaning beyond the screen. Two people, oceans apart, somehow colliding under the spell of fate. That's the narrative the press packaged and sold. The modern romance that promised to heal the monarchy's wounds. The palace smile.
That she arrived in London, full career, single girl, wasn't interested. Of course, she'd been coming to London since 2013, hunting for a man to marry. She wanted an Englishman. She was on a man hunt.
The headlines swoon. And every frame, every photo, every soft focus interview painted Meghan as the symbol of change. The woman who made the world believe in love again. Behind the glowing portraits and the magazine covers, the timeline was already shifting. The blind date arranged by a mutual friend? That friend wasn't random. She was a long-standing member of Soho House London,
This is what Meghan has been doing. She's a piece of Klingon, like she clings to somebody who can get her there. So Meghan manages to befriend one person of a very popular group, and then that person introduces her to the others. And because she's being brought in by somebody they trust, she's welcomed in.
Same network that had been quietly orbiting Meghan's life for years. The press never mentioned that Meghan had already been attending exclusive Soho gatherings in Toronto, events reserved for high-ranking members, not television regulars, or that Marcus Anderson, the man who managed those guest lists, was sitting at the very table where her introduction to Harry would be planned. Every coincidence had a footprint. Every encounter, a host. To the public, it was chemistry. To those inside the circuit, it looked more like choreography. Even the first photos of them together. The crisp park strolls, the hidden weekends in Botswana, followed a media rhythm too polished to be unplanned.
Meghan Markle did know Prince Andrew, and she knew Sarah incredibly well, which makes Zara a liar, because she said, I didn't know Meghan Markle until she invited me to her wedding. That is BS.
Someone was curating the image long before the cameras arrived, and as the world cheered the royal engagement, few noticed how seamlessly Meghan's old social circle had merged with Harry's own. Different worlds, same faces, because the fairy tale wasn't written by destiny. It was directed by design, and the script was only beginning to unravel. It started with one discovery, but it didn't end there. Once Harry began digging, the connections multiplied faster than he could make sense of them. He'd heard before of socialites, donors, even business partners who'd quietly supported his charities. But now,
they were not poor. They just wanted to land a rich man and make easy money. And the worst part of it all is that Meghan Markle was already with Trevor Engelson there. She was already living with him. There was no need for her to be hustling this way.
those same names appeared beside Meghan in photographs from years earlier. Different events, different continents, the same faces. And the deeper he looked, the more precise it became. Archived guest lists showed Meghan at Soho House, Istanbul, Madrid, and Barcelona between 2014 and 2016, mingling with financiers, diplomats, and heirs who would later appear in Harry's orbit. It wasn't random proximity, it was overlap. He found old blog entries from society writers describing Marcus Anderson's exclusive gatherings, curated nights meant to pair.
Because I believe Jessica Mulroney was a member, along with her husband, of Soho House, not Meghan.
Potential. Women invited for their ambition, men for their influence. Every introduction, a calculated move within a larger design. Harry realized he hadn't been the first royal figure Marcus had courted, and Meghan hadn't been the first actress to pass through those circles, either. But she was the one who learned how to stay. Then came the financial inconsistencies. Soho House memberships, international flights, private villas. None of it aligned with her acting.
So this is way back in 2006. I wonder if Trevor ever knew about this. People can have double lives because look at these pictures could not be shown in the United States, all over North America, only in certain countries. And I don't think Trevor would even thought back then of going through a VPN and seeing where Meghan Markle is or what she's doing.
Salary. Invoices hinted that her expenses were covered by corporate partnerships, not personal accounts. In plain words, someone else was footing the bill. When Harry confronted old acquaintances, they avoided his calls. One even warned him. That's when the truth began to fracture the fairy tale. Every revelation pushed him closer to one terrifying realization. The life he thought was built on love might have been assembled from strategy. And if the timeline was wrong, what else had been rewritten? By the time Harry traced the final thread, the pattern was undeniable. Every introduction,
And that ridiculous story about how they first met. The whole thing was a tissue of inaccuracies, to be polite.
photograph, every chance encounter that led to their union, all pointed toward one figure quietly operating in the background: Marcus Anderson. To the public, he was charming and discreet, a hospitality consultant for an exclusive network. But to those who'd been part of his private gatherings, Marcus was more than a host. He was a matchmaker of influence, a curator of access, and Meghan had been one of his most polished protégés. Society insiders described his circle as a finishing school for the ambitious women introduced to the right rooms, coached on appearance, demeanor, and conversation, until they could navigate the world of the powerful effortlessly. Harry wasn't just another name in Meghan's story. He was the apex of her ascent. The evidence grew darker when Harry reviewed the wedding guest list. Nearly half the attendees, from Meghan's side, were linked to Marcus's network. Brand executives, club directors, and social players who had nothing to do with her Hollywood years. The ceremony that millions,
Meghan Markle only becomes prominent for Soho House, guys, after she starts being on Suits and she's introduced to Marcus Anderson. And then she gets more consistent and more prominent work, okay? Because then she could be in the presence of Marcus Anderson.
watched as a royal love story looked, in hindsight, like a carefully staged summit. Then came the memory that haunted him most. The old voicemail from William. A warning wrapped in concern. Be careful. You're not marrying into a romance. You're marrying into a strategy. He dismissed it as jealousy then. He doesn't anymore. Because as Harry replayed the messages, scrolled through the faces, and counted the coincidences, the illusion finally collapsed. Every detail of his relationship now felt choreographed, from introductions to image management, from whispers to wedding bells.
We're being brainwashed by these Hollywood people who think this is the way to make money and, in the end, destroy our monarchy to make their fortune.
And when he looked at the woman beside him, he no longer saw destiny. He saw design. Because in this story, the prince didn't rescue the actress. The actress rewrote the fairy tale and cast herself as its queen. Once the facade cracked, there was no unseeing it. The cheerful interviews, the matching smiles, the polished charity appearances, they all started to observe, like choreography from a script he never read. Inside their private life, Harry began noticing the small shifts first. Conversations that once felt spontaneous now seemed rehearsed. Meetings he didn't understand about. Names mentioned in passing that later appeared in press leaks, word for word. Every move he made, every statement he gave, felt guided, softened, reframed, and
Her guest list to her wedding showed her real ambition was to be a star in California.
filtered through Meghan's growing team of advisors, many of them former Soho House affiliates. What was once love became management. When palace aides described her as savvy, they meant strategic. When journalists called her independent, insiders whispered calculating. And when Meghan claimed to be breaking free from royal control, she was quietly building her own empire. One brand deal, one documentary, one image contract at a time. Harry, once the world's most untouchable royal, now felt like the accessory in his own story. He wasn't the headline anymore. He was the supporting character in hers, even his memoir. Insiders say bore traces of ghostwriters with connections back to her media circle. The voice sounded like his, the framing suspiciously not. And through it,
I truly believe that when he met Meghan, she whispered into his ear, a 36-year-old mature woman. whispered into his ear, "Harry, you and I could change the world."
All, Marcus Anderson remained close. A shadow advisor, spotted at private events, credited for media introductions and networking oversight. The same name, the same pattern. By the time Tyke came, Harry realized how much control had shifted. It was already complete. Meghan had mastered the one skill no royal training ever covered: narrative ownership. She didn't just escape the institution, she replaced it. And the prince who once rebelled against the crown now found himself serving another, quieter, sharper, and infinitely more powerful. Because sometimes the throne isn't made of gold, it's made of influence. And Meghan sits on hers without ever needing a crown. When the royal gates finally closed behind them, many believed Meghan and Harry were walking into peace, freedom, silence, a chance to live without cameras or control. But the silence never came, because Meghan,